Hi, and welcome back to Boss Wife. Here is where you'll get your motivation for the week. Here is where you'll get the tools and tips to learn how to laugh, play, and live hard, unapologetically. Here is where you'll learn how to erase the lines of the box because you realize you cannot be contained. Here is where you'll learn how to show up for yourself. Here is where the most powerful transition will begin in your life. Welcome to Boss Wife. I'm super excited about the guest that I get to share with you guys on tonight. Sheri Johnson is amazing. I love the fact that she came on to share her story with us. And it actually helped me to open up and kind of share my own personal story that I've never actually talked about. And it was very enjoyable, very important. It was a very necessary conversation. And I really think that you guys are going to get a lot out of it. I'm so glad you guys come back every week to hear me and to hear my guests, or just me. But thank you so much. I always want to say thank you to you guys. This has been an amazing journey, but it can only be amazing because of you. So anyways, let's talk about Sheri. Sheri is the creator of Women Worth Membership and host of host of the Awakening Worth podcast. Sheri helps women who are childless, not by choice, to awaken their worth in a world that makes them feel like they're inadequate. I love that about her. Her passion is inspiring these women to live a full and joyful life and meaningful instead of in lack of, if that makes sense. I know we kind of get sidetracked of what's important because of what society tells us, but you guys will hear a lot more about that. But she definitely goes out of her way to make sure that her clients are in a full understanding of what their life should really be full of and not in the lack of. I don't want to go too much into details. But after having 3 miscarriages and 6 years of infertility, Sheri's coaching background and spiritual training led her to discover a process for navigating the triggers, the feelings of inadequacy and the lack of purpose and meaning. Sheri also packaged up this process into a formula that she teaches in one-on-one coaching and in her membership program. So it's not just something that it's just for her or personal. She shares this with the world. So you guys, make sure you definitely look up her podcast, look up her website, get into her programs. If this is something that has really touched you, has really been on your heart, has really been demanding in your life, if these emotions and these feelings and just struggle of not being able to have children, or the struggle of trying to have a child, or the struggle of dealing with miscarriages and how you feel about those things, like, look into Sheri. And I don't really know why I've been going into this realm of children here lately, but I know I'm helping someone. And so I'm really glad that Sheri came on my podcast this week because the conversation is wonderful. I'm just letting you guys know, like, you're definitely going to enjoy it. You're definitely going to get a lot out of it. But without further ado, let's bring Miss Sheri on.
Hey, Sheri, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you, Ebony?
I'm good. Sorry, I think my phone thought I said started talking. Okay. So I'm doing great. Thank you so much for being on BossWife.live. I'm super excited about this conversation. So how was your day today?
My day was great. Yeah, no complaints. I had it's freezing cold up here where I live, but it's sunny, which always is such a nice thing in April. We have so much rain and had a little bit of snow today even. So yeah, it was nice to see the sun. That always makes everything better.
Yeah. Wow. So you're in Canada and it's snowing. Like, I think I would flip out. Well, no, I wouldn't, because in Tennessee we're the same way. Like, it can be snowing one day, you can go swimming the next. Like, it's crazy. So is you guys weather like that?
In the spring, yes, it's like
Okay.
huge swings. We were, people were out in tank tops and shorts on Sunday, and then today it was actually freezing, like at the freezing mark, and we had a little bit of snow. So
That is
a
crazy.
little bit. It's pretty late for snow, but
yeah, that's crazy. But that's what they say about this global warming and everything that we got going on with the weather. So, but anyway, so we'll get right into it. I'm super excited to have you on today because we're talking about infertility. We're talking about childless women. We're talking about just dealing with everything that comes along with that and how society puts everything on us as women to deal with that. So why do you think that it is important for us to be a mother? Why do you think it's important for women to be mothers?
That's an interesting question. So I would look at that as two things. So society, like, why does society believe that it's important to be mothers is one question. And I think that just stems from, it's partly our evolution. I mean, it's foundational for us to want to become mothers. But the other, we also have a very, what is called a pronatalist society. So we're encouraged by government, by religion, by society in general to be mothers, to have children. So there's, I think that's where this belief stems from, that it is important to be mothers. But the other way that I would look at that is, as a childless woman, I feel that we place maybe a little bit too much importance on being mothers, because there is so much that we can bring as childless women to the world without being a mother. That said, I have another perspective. We all are mothers in a way. I have nieces and nephews. I have lots of them. I have a little dog that is laying under my desk who might bark during the episode.
Okay.
We have, there's teachers who are childless women. There are women who work in the church. There's women who have not born their own children or birthed their own children, but they are still mothers. And I think that's an important part of us as females. We have this innate desire to nurture, and we will mother many people, things in our lives.
That's true. I actually did a podcast today, and I said the same exact thing. Like, I was just kind of giving like an overview of all of my guests that have been on, and I knew you were coming on. So, but I said the same exact thing. Like, being a mom doesn't require you to give birth. We can be a mom in so many different ways, to so many different people, in so many different atmospheres. It's just who we are. Now, I do think that being a woman, I think that, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. Like, I really think that, like, from day one, we're just taught to be moms, because what do we do for for girls? Like, we buy them dolls, right? We buy them doll clothes, we buy them baby food and diapers and bottles. Like, we do the whole shebang, right? And so, well, I did, I have two girls. So one of my daughters never played with dolls. The other one, her whole room, like her dolls live better than we do. Let me say, but like, that's what we do as a society. Like you said, we put that in our kids at a young age, and it's just kind of taught like, okay, at some point in life, you're going to be a mom, So I definitely think that it's just something that's in us from day one, and then the fact that most women have this nurturing part of us, not all, but majority have a nurturing, a big, huge part of us is nurturing. And we have a need to want to take care of somebody. We have a need to want to, help groom people and shape them and mold them. And, and I feel like if you don't know what directions to kind of angle that in, it can definitely be overwhelming. And I see it a lot in relationships too. Like you can see women who take on relationships where they're taking care of their men, and where they're taking care of, like they're kind of just taking care of them. It's an excuse for them. Oh, they don't have to work. Oh, they don't have to do this. Oh, they don't have to do this. And it's like, no, you want a project. You don't want a man, So, but not to get too far deep in that. But like, you can just definitely see, you can just definitely see like a nurturing, like we have that nurturing part of us. And that's just, I think it makes up like probably like 80% of us. Like, because even when I'm not here at home, if I'm not with my kids, I'm helping take care of somebody. I'm doing something, I'm always helping somebody. I'm in the medical field. So, that's a big part of me too. Like, I just always want to make sure that I'm taking care of somebody and making sure that their needs are being met, I guess, And so, like I said, like if you don't really know which direction to kind of angle that in, it can run away with you. And I think women definitely get overwhelmed with that feeling and not knowing how to, angle it, I guess. So, and what you do is you coach women and you help them to overcome these emotions and feelings. And so what do you think, how do you think, let me see, in addressing, I think you said inadequacy. So like when you are addressing these inadequate emotions of women, how do you address that?
So I think what you're talking about is this feeling that childless women have, that because we haven't been able to become mothers, we are inadequate, or we're less than, or we're not as good as the mothers, right?
Sorry. Do I need to rephrase it? Yes.
No, I think that's what you mean. Right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm just making sure. So the way that I address that, really what that boils down to is self-worth. Mm-hmm. And that's how we all struggle with self-worth. And that's just how it shows up for childless women. So they feel inadequate. Moms have it too. I mean, moms.
Oh, definitely.
They feel like they're not good enough moms.
Right.
And they'll have guilt over taking care of themselves, meeting everybody else's needs except their own. Childless women have this feeling that they're not as good as the moms. So the way that we address that in coaching is really by self-worth as a practice. So, but the first thing that we need to do is just help people to understand that that's what that really is. This feeling of being less than isn't about, there's a perception that it's the moms that make us feel like that because of the things they say or the things they do. And they're not really doing anything. They're just being moms. They're just being themselves. It's our perception that we are less than. So getting someone to recognize that is the first step, and recognizing that it's really an internal issue. It's an inside job. And then we can start to work on, okay, that practice of self-worth. And that can be so many things. There's a process of letting go of that identity. So there's an acceptance process, like there might be grief associated with that, letting go of that identity, that ideal image that we had, this dream. So that's a piece of it. And then there's also the practicing of self-worth, and that can span many parts of your life. So it can be, let's just talk about let's just identify what's true about yourself, how to become yourself, practicing being yourself, expressing what's really inside of you, telling your story, recognizing that your voice has worth, that your voice matters, that you matter. So that's it sometimes takes a few coaching sessions to
definitely.
get to that point, because it's kind of a hard concept to really wrap your brain around at first.
Right. Now when you were talking, I was just thinking, would you categorize that like as a void though? You know, like even though you can't physically give birth, like it's still a void there. You know, like how do you address that? How do you address the void that they're feeling? Because it's not, I don't personally think that it's always that they're inadequate. It's just something that they're like fiending for, you know, something that they feel like they're not whole without. It's something that they feel like they have to do. So, you know, like it's just who they are. So like, do you suggest adoption? Do you suggest, like you said, you have nieces and nephews, like what other tools do you use to help them through that pivotal moment?
Yeah. So you're talking about a different kind of inadequacy, and that's just not receiving or not being able to do not being able to realize the dream that they had. And that does leave a void. And so that can be, really what that is grief. So there's really, it's about addressing the grief, not about trying to fill the void.
Okay.
So for some people, that it does mean going in another direction. So maybe they will choose to explore adoption, or they may explore fostering children, or doing something else with children,
right,
as a way to fulfill that need to nurture and that desire to have children, to realize their dream. But I think the stats are close to like 85% of women don't actually get to do those things, because they're not as easy as you'd think either. Adoption quite often doesn't work out. It's expensive. It takes a long time. You may not, there's so many reasons why that may not work out either.
Right.
So really what we need to work on is the grief. And that's all about feeling. We tend to want to fill that void with other things. We fill voids with food, with booze, with work, with Netflix, all kinds of things, right?
Right.
And really what it is about fulfilling. It's understanding that that's grief and allowing yourself to feel all of the feelings that go along with that. So instead of avoiding them or trying to fill that void with something else, trying to numb that pain with something, it's learning to accept that it is grief. There is a loss there. You've lost a dream, and it's feeling the emotions. That's how you release them, is by feeling them. And eventually that void gets smaller and smaller, and you find fulfillment in other ways.
Okay. So let's go back to what you were talking about self-care and about loving themselves, and like, how do you get women to the point where, okay, we're over the grief, we're over, trying to replace it. Now I need to get back to me. I need to realize who I am without being this person.
Yeah. So that's how we get to that practice. So let me distinguish one thing. So I see self-love as something different than self-care.
Self-worth.
Which is different from self-worth.
Okay.
So you won't take part in self-care activities. You won't care for yourself until you feel worthy of that care. So, but you can practice that worthiness, the feeling self-worth, by engaging in self-care. So the more you care for yourself, the more you really identify what your true needs are. So let's say what's an example? Let's say you're having a bad day. You were triggered by someone, whatever the case may be. And so identifying that was hard, just honoring how you feel, and then taking that next step and going to the self-care, which is, okay, I don't have to put on a mask now and pretend that didn't happen, or pretend that I'm okay. I can just admit to myself that was hard and I didn't like that. And it's okay to feel the way that I'm feeling. And now I can engage in nurturing myself or doing something that makes me feel good without feeling guilty about it, because that's what I need in this moment. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. So tell us a little bit more, if you don't mind, about your infertility journey.
Sure. Yeah, I talk about it all the time. So I don't mind. It started with a miscarriage. So I actually got pregnant very quickly the first time, and it was actually an accident. We knew, my husband and I knew we were going to get pregnant, but we hadn't planned on it. I just decided I'm going to go natural. I don't want to be on birth control pills anymore. And 2 months later, we were pregnant. And then 11 weeks later, I miscarried. And then the fertility journey started. It took me 2 years to get pregnant again. And then another, 6-8 months before I got pregnant a third time. And I lost both of those. And so overall, all in all, it was about 6 years that we tried and explored fertility treatments. We did some IUI, intrauterine insemination. And then we just got to the point where we were going to try IVF. And I was almost 44 at the time. I think I was 43. And the doctors recommended that I use a donor egg. And there's so much to explore in that whole decision. There's so, like, the emotions, the psychology of it, like just the whole idea that this is going to be my husband's biological child, but not mine. And then there's the money, like the cost of it is exorbitant, especially after we'd already undergone some fertility treatments. So we explored, and it certainly wasn't a cut and dried decision. We sort of made the decision, and then I'd go back on the decision and say, well, maybe we should. And then I'd say, no, okay, I think I'll be okay. And then we'd go back. So it was a real process. And I think one of the most important parts of that was, in hindsight, I realized, was untangling, going back to our conversation from earlier, sort of teasing out what I was taught that I should want and what society's telling me that I should want, and trying to figure out all of that versus what do I really want? And can I be okay without having a child, or will I be judged? It's a real mind game to work through all of that. And it takes time, but ultimately, we made the decision, and now it's too late. So we decided to just move forward and embrace our path and work on accepting and building a beautiful life. And I feel now that we really have. I'm in a good place. I've done a lot of work to get here, and I can see now that my own pain has now led to my coaching business. It was sort of meant to be. I feel like I'm now called to serve other women who are going through this because I know how to do it. I know how to get to a place where I feel good.
Right. That's amazing. I'm glad you shared your story with us. I want women to know, even though, like you said, society tells us, if we don't have children, we're not fulfilled. If you do have children and you work, then, you're doing your kids a disservice because you're not at home, at home with them. Or if you are at home, then you're not, you're still not a good woman because you're not fulfilling yourself. And, it's a lot. Like society dumps all of this mess on us, and then we take it, and then we start biting off piece of it, and we make it our own identity. And I love that you revised like how you felt about you, and you revised how you felt about your life and what it means to you. So I definitely want women to know they don't have to settle for what the world is telling them to do or what their family members are telling them to do, because even with me, we got pregnant 6 times and we lost 2. And nobody ever even, I don't know if it was, not that I can remember. Nobody helped me through like my mourning process. Nobody helped me through, nobody was really there for me. I don't know if it was because my family's a little bit older. So it's that hush hush generation where you don't talk about it, you don't speak of it, it's one of those things that it just happened, and or if it was just because nobody knew how to help me through it, nobody really knew what to say. But it was definitely rough. I never felt like I guess really got over it. I think it was just something I kind of put on the shelf and left over there. It was something I never dealt with. And but we have 4 kids, and I don't know what I would have did if I had 6. I'm gonna tell you. but it's amazing how society has all these rules and regulations for us to be women, but they don't have the answers to things when they don't go the way they think they should go. Does that make sense? Like, they don't have the answers for us when we're dealing with the miscarriages and we're dealing with the infertility. They don't have the answers for us when we feel like we're alone in this journey. Like we feel like you said, like we're inadequate, or, they don't have the answers for us when we're grieving properly. They think we're crazy, or you should just get over it, or, whatever. But on here, this is called Boss Wife, and you're definitely a boss wife, but it's just because I wanted my community to hear, your story, to see your view of things, and for you to give them something to look forward to, because at the end of that tunnel, there's light, and like you said, if adoption isn't for you, if, IVF isn't for you, everybody's story is totally different. And you're so inspirational. So what do you feel like women can do? Because I feel like it's not the end of the story, like after you get over that hill, like you turned it into something very positive. You started influencing other women. You started leading other women. You started telling your story, but you had to be okay first. Like, so after you get over that hill, what do they need to do next? Or what do you advise them to do next?
It's a real process. I think you kind of nailed it there. Like and everybody's journey is different. So for some women, they're going to tell their story right away, and telling your story is healing because it immediately releases emotion, but it also draws other people to you. When they hear your story, they recognize themselves in it, which is what I just did with you. You shared something with me, something personal, that you've had 2 losses too. And my heart goes out to you, and that immediately connects us. So some women will tell their story early on and other women won't. But then that woman who didn't, she might seek out some sort of therapy or coaching or something, whereas the woman who shared her story didn't. So everyone has their own way of getting through it. And I don't know that there's a end to the healing and then a next step,
Right.
but I think it's a constant, like I feel good now, but I still have my days when I'm like, oh, I wonder what, how old would my kids be right now? And what would they be doing? There's always days where I think, what would they look like? So there's always moments, but I think once you get to a point where you're feeling pretty good, I think one of the best things you can do is help others. So it's, I forget who said it, your mess becomes your message. What
I love that.
When you've gone through something and you've been successful, or you feel like you're in a good place, share that with other women. Even if it's just one person who's going through it, that's a way that you can connect with them. And it doesn't matter what you're going through. It could be, this is for moms as well. I think moms feel just as alone as we do sometimes. And
definitely. You definitely feel like you're going through things alone.
Yeah. It's hard. It's all hard.
It is. But I think, like you said, your support system, finding your path, finding what's out there for you, because nobody's story is the same. Did you listen to like any certain podcasts? Did you read any books? Like, how did you kind of pull yourself up by the bootstraps?
You know what? I started going through it when it was 2012. So podcasts wasn't a huge thing like it is now.
Right.
I have a podcast now, so that's my way of giving back. I do.
Yeah.
So that, and I know that helps a lot of women. Instagram isn't what it is today. Social media isn't what it is today. Like it was out there, but there weren't the communities that there are now. So I went to therapy. That was the first thing I did. And it wasn't actually because I felt like I was really struggling. I actually thought that I was somehow energetically sabotaging my chances at getting pregnant. So I went to a therapist who was a psychotherapist, but also did energy work. So, and then she just opened up a whole can of worms. Like we got into everything. I was there for way more than what I was experiencing on the fertility journey. We talked about everything. And it just really opened me up to healing, to spiritual healing, as well as emotional and physical. I did a lot of meditation, journaling, journal writing. I used essential oils for emotions. I used mantras. I did a lot of that mindfulness, spiritual work. And that was actually what led me to doing the work that I do now. I did a lot of that at a spiritual coaching program where I learned how to teach meditation and and so I was teaching myself first. I used it all on myself and just kind of developed this formula that worked. I targeted my journal writing on specific things, and my meditations were visualizations that were really targeted on the things that I was dealing with as I went on my fertility journey and then in childlessness. So it was really those things. There's lots of books out there.
Definitely.
Lots of podcasts now, and there's Instagram accounts, and there's Facebook groups. There's so many options. There's lots of women who coach, and do therapy. So you can find them. There is something that will resonate for everyone.
Right.
To help them on their journey.
Right. I love that you said, I don't love that you said it, but I love the point that you made about your mental sabotaging. Like, can you expound on that a little bit more for us? Because I know, because I'm a woman and I do it myself, and about mentally sabotaging us and feeling like we're doing it to ourselves, and you're really not. you know, like it may be something that your body just physically cannot do, or it may be something that it's just in our genetics, you know. But I won't ramble on, but yes, can you expound on like the mental sabotaging that you went through?
Yeah. So that's a good question. One that I haven't really thought that much about. So I want to, you're absolutely right. I think when women are on the fertility journey, there's things going on inside their body that they can't control. There's maybe things going on with their partner that they can't control. Or they haven't, outside of the fertility journey, there's women who are they're single, or there's so many reasons why we don't get to have the baby we want. But I guess what I really wanted to do was look at, is there any small part that I'm playing in this? And in hindsight, I could actually identify them. And at first I blamed myself. And then I realized, so let me give you an example. So it turns out that I had some food sensitivities. And one of the things that I went to a Chinese medicine doctor at one point, and she said, you need to give up gluten. It's showing up on your food sensitivities test. And I tried, but there were a whole bunch of things on my food sensitivities test. I got tired of it, and I just wanted to eat what I wanted to eat. And I'm a nutritionist, so I knew like the effect that food has on your body. So I knew that I should have been, but I had so much other stuff going on the fertility journey. It's stressful. It's all consuming. And so I didn't give up all those things. And there was a day much later where my neighbor said to me, oh, I gave up gluten and then I got pregnant. And I immediately went, oh my goodness. What if I had given up gluten? Like I sabotaged my chances of getting pregnant by not doing this. So I went into this blame cycle. And then, through my own healing journey, I kind of said, okay, I did the best that I could in that moment. I didn't believe that this was having an effect on my fertility, so I didn't give up gluten. But so that's an example of, a way that I was maybe sabotaging my chances, that because I didn't have the belief, and I wasn't giving myself the care that I needed. So I did maybe play a small part in that, but I learned that it wasn't about judgment either. Like when I found that out later, you can blame yourself, but that just makes yourself feel worse.
Right. And so, not anything.
Yeah, I had to just kind of say, okay, I did the best that I could with the belief system that I had at the time. And that's okay. I did the best I could. So yeah, I don't know if that really answered your question, but
You did.
There's lots of times where we sabotage ourselves and we just don't know it. And I wanted to get underneath of that.
You're right. There's a lot of times we do it and we don't know it. But like you said, and being in the medical field, I can definitely tell you 100% that just because it worked for her doesn't mean it would have worked for you. Everybody's body does something totally different. That's why they haven't found a cure for cancer, because everybody's body handles cancer so totally different. So yeah. Right. So yeah, no. Don't do that. I know it's this journey definitely isn't for the weak. You definitely have to be wholeheartedly into it, and you have to have a great partner, and you have a great partner, right?
I do, but we were not without our problems.
Right. Well, no couple is, but it's the support, it's that understanding that you need, it's that shoulder that you need. And you definitely need it. Like you said, everybody probably isn't married. Everybody doesn't probably have a significant other. Some women are probably single. They're trying to go through this, But the fact is, you still need a support system. You still need somebody who can just listen to you scream, cry, throw stuff, whatever, and to deal with it. You still need a sounding board. You still got to get it out. Like, don't just house it all in. But and that plays a big part in self-sabotaging, because if you can voice what you're feeling, you can have somebody say, hey, listen, no, that's not, don't do that to yourself. That's not true. That's, just to have somebody to bounce things off of and to help you get through those moments, to pull you up out of it. Yeah. So tell us where we can find you to get some more of this great advice that you have.
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram at awakening.worth. And then I also have a website. It's just sherijohnson.ca. And I have a quiz on there that will help you determine where, what your own level of self-worth is. So that might be helpful. Lots of other resources right on my website, sherijohnson.ca. That's probably the best place. Oh, do you want me to spell? You're going to link that up in your show notes?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to spell it out for them, but that's because my name only has one R in it.
Yeah, I'm going to link everything for them, but I just wanted them to hear it come from you, where we could find you. And what is your advice for the women out there that are listening that are in the midst of this? They're in the middle, like they're not on either side of the tunnel. They're trying to get through this. Like, what is your advice for those women?
I think the best advice is just to give yourself grace. It was something that I did not do, Ebony. And it sounds like you didn't either. Like, you just kind of shove things under the carpet and you move on. And if you've had a loss, if you're on an infertility journey, if you're childless, give yourself the grace, honor your emotions, the grief, honor that it is grief that you're feeling, and just care for yourself. Give yourself that care that you need.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us on tonight. This was awesome. I can't wait to share it with everybody and for us just to grow and learn from it as well. Even though I physically have children, like, I could still connect with you, and I could still resonate with things that you were saying and talking about. So, like, all women have a common ground. All women do. We've all been there. We've all been at some point on the road at some point, But thank you so much for coming on and sharing this with us. And I just can't wait to see where you go from here. Like, I know there's something great for you. I know I'm going to see you in more places and more elevated places. So thank you again. You guys know where you can reach us. I'm here every Tuesday night on bosslife.live. Anywhere you listen to music, I'm there. Like, share, subscribe, comment, and definitely share this podcast with somebody else. If you don't need it, pass it along to a friend, an auntie, a mom, whoever may need to hear what Sheri has to talk about on tonight. So thank you guys, and we will see you next Tuesday.